Welcome to the Ripples of Perception series. I'm Lisa Hayes.
I'm Iva Nasr.
We're so excited you're here joining us because just as casting a pebble into a pond creates ripples, so do we as we go through life.
Please stay with us through the series as Lisa and myself, in each segment, share a variety of stories, downloads, and experiences that enrich our understanding of perception.
Are you ready to get started?
More than ready.
So, as we embark on 2023, Iva, many of us are introducing resolutions. And today I thought it would be kind of fun to share each of us a story about how we can visualize what we want by sharing true life stories that we have experienced in terms of just that.
Sounds good to me.
I will start out with a story that just happened today and yesterday.
That's current. It really is a new year experience for you.
Yeah. And, we were also talking before the podcast about how sometimes when we visualize, it's almost like a prophecy, like that we're almost prophetic in terms of what we're seeing in the future happening, yet also letting go of the outcome, the expectations to the outcome, which we've talked about is hugely important because sometimes, well, all times, the universe has a better understanding of what serves us than what we can even imagine. So when we leave it up to the universe or to our higher self, miracles can happen that come about facilitated by our initial visualization, yet letting go of the outcome. Though that visualization is embellished to a certain point where I think we could even call it a miracle.
Yes, and the non-attachment to outcome typically implies non-attachment to that fixed picture we might have had with the envisioning, the detailed outcome. However, more often than not, my experience has been that the initial quality, the feeling, the sensation that went out with the vision somehow still translates into the outcome, even if the outcome is a different picture. So letting go of the outcome does not necessarily mean you're abandoning every part of your visualization. I'm just kind of as a side note.
I think that's very important. And maybe that's why I use the word embellish. It's as if the universe is embellishing what we visualized to a greater extent that better serves us.
Yes.
I love it. Okay. So here's a little miracle.
You call it little. I keep reminding you all day today, not so little, but go ahead.
It's a huge miracle. I mean, I'll be the first to admit because I'm so relieved and thrilled by it. So from that standpoint, I think it probably, I mean, it seems little in perspective.
Exactly. I know what you mean.
In terms of the ripples of perception of the entire world, it doesn't seem like it's playing into being that big of an event. However, it's a huge miracle from the standpoint of what we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. Right.
So here's what happened. Da, 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 da. Yesterday, I was helping my daughter, who lives in Kansas City, and I live in Indianapolis. So we're 7 hours apart. And I was letting my fingers do the walking by researching daycare centers and or a nanny to come into the home because her old nanny is no longer with her. So there's been a transitional change and a quick change, and we're in need of immediate care for my 15-month-old grandson.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to help her. She had already been doing some research over the last couple of weeks over the holidays and reaching out to people and talking to them about daycares and nannies. And did you know there is a shortage in the United States of daycare openings?
Just, is it one more shortage as an outcome of the pandemic and just that whole shift, like with nurses and with
Could be
different parts of the industry?
It could be. Yet I also feel like it's a shortage of facilities. So in Kansas City, researching high and low for an entire day yesterday, I found nothing. Everybody had 6 months to a year or more of a wait list.
And you mentioned to me that you were even willing to go beyond like a comfort zone in terms of distance. Like you went as far as even half an hour away.
Right. And price. I mean,
And
we were getting
price.
desperate.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's my understanding now, talking to a couple other people, that a lot of women are staying home because they can't find daycare.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe they're working from home some way or whatever. And also my understanding that this is not just a pandemic issue in Kansas City, in a sense of pandemic being no daycare available, like we had no diapers of it or no formula available for a while.
That's right. Yes.
Anyway, so I thought, okay, I've done everything humanly possible. I've researched, and I'm a pretty good researcher. I've researched high and low, in addition to Caitlin researching, my daughter, high and low, and talking to people. There's nothing. So I went back to a website called Sitter City, and I said, I guess I'm going to have to find an individual to come to her home again, even though it's not exactly what she wanted to continue with. However, it was our only option, it seemed. So I let go of this whole idea of these daycare centers. I even thought I found one. And then when they called me back and said, I don't know who you were talking to, but we have a year waiting list. I'm like, oh, because I had set up a tour for my daughter. So I said, okay, I'm going to let go of the resistance and understand that the universe is telling me that there's something out there. I can feel it. I have no idea where, what, and how, yet I felt almost like a prophetic feeling, and I could visualize. And I even looked up above and I said, help with this facility. I can feel. I feel like there's a facility that's close by my daughter's house that is reasonably priced and is a perfect environment for my 15-month-old grandson. Now, it seemed totally illogical. It seemed like it would have to be a miracle for this facility to manifest itself, to appear out of thin air, because it was nowhere on the internet. Okay. So, but yet I felt, Iva, that it was there somewhere. So I just looked up and I saw this vortex moving in the atmosphere. I said, something's moving. And I said, I'm just going to let it do its business. And I'm going to let go of the outcome. And I'm not going to worry about daycare centers right now. I'm not going to be focused on this sense of knowing that there's something out there. I'm just going to allow this vortex to work. And I went back to the Sitter City website working with that and did something else for a few minutes. And then I get this text from my daughter that was within the hour of the vortex, probably just a half an hour, maybe even less, because I wasn't even sure of time. Mom, I just heard from a ladies group that I'm in touch with that there might be an opening at Steeplechase. I'm just going to throw it out there because this is this wonderful facility, Steeplechase Academy in Kansas City. Can you call them right now? I said, I'm on it. I called and they had 3 openings. No waiting list, brand new facility. A facility that was built from an old church on 4 acres, a Montessori program.
Wow.
I mean, and reasonably priced, 7 minutes from my daughter's house.
7 minutes.
How did this happen? He starts on Monday.
So first of all, congratulations. It is a huge relief. I understand what you meant when you said little miracle, because it's within the realm of your life, your immediate family, and in perspective to the outside world and other things that could happen, yes, it might seem fairly small. However, the pieces of it, that the building blocks of it are universal and huge, huge. So congratulations. Okay. In 2015, well, this started maybe in 2014 when I was completing just final edits on my manuscript for what would become my book, From Rifles to Roses. One evening, just relaxed, sitting in bed, flipping through the pages and editing. I had no attachment or no thought process at that time to the publishing of the book or anything. So it really seemed like a random thought or a specific thought that was brought to me. You talk about that prophetic moment in having a vision. And that was that my book is to be recorded in my own voice. So narrating the book, to have an audio recording of my book, maybe along with a printed version. Okay. So I noted and I thought, well, there had been other moments in my life where I actually had the desire to have my recorded voice. So I noted and moved on. And now, fast forward, final production for the book. I'm in process of working with a designing team to self-publish. And I thought, perfect. I'm not going to release this book before I also do an audio recording. Well, that was my plan, my desire. Apparently, there was a different sequence in the works, because at the time, my dear friend, Elizabeth Gilbert, who, as many of you know, is just a very well-established best-selling author and has quite a following to her wonderful creations, is a very dear friend and a very generous friend. And she, on her own, she insisted on being part of my book launch. She just wanted to enjoy this moment in life with me. And the only qualifier was there was a very slim window of time, like maybe 3 days, that she would be available before more travels. So I seized the moment. Of course, it was such an honor. No recording of the book, though, not at that time. I'm going to fast forward. Trust me, there were so many more details along the way where every time there would be maybe an opening to consider doing that, or I would get a craving to look into a recording studio, or life was happening. And then my parents made a big move from one city to another. And then My dad at some point got ill and then in and out of the hospital, and I was in some capacity primary caretaker and day-to-day events. So every time I approached looking for a studio, finding a recording engineer, doing it myself, whatever angle, it was delayed or paused. I just simply couldn't get to it. So a few months ago, I was drawn to go to a friend's book release. Few days prior to actually making it to the event, I had 3 people from different walks of life, from different parts of the country and the world, not connected to each other, either call me or send me a text that they were reading my book or just read it, and they all asked me the same question, Lisa. Iva, why isn't this book recorded in your voice? And I thought, precision in manifestation. And this all came after I also stepped back and let go and no more resistance and got to trust the process and so on and so forth, paralleling the pieces of your story, right? Anyway, so I had those invitations. One went to the extent of putting me in touch with a dear woman who had written her own book and actually recorded her own book sitting in a closet, because that was the most insulated part. And she was so generous to get on the phone with me. And the only reason I will not put out names or anything is just out of privacy for the individuals involved. And even then, I got off the phone having taken notes, like tips on how to do it myself, and just felt so grateful that someone was so willing to coach me through the process, and surely it must be time. I get off the phone and I felt a heaviness in my heart, very slight. I've learned to pay attention and not ignore these feelings. So I closed my eyes and I asked myself, what is this feeling? Why do I feel heaviness? Immediately, I was reminded that my preference was to find an agent, to find help, to find someone who can help me do it instead of me doing it on my own. Along the way, in visualizing this project happening, that was one more quality I added to the mix. I don't want to do it alone.
Mhm.
And I had somehow set that aside because I was so enthusiastic that maybe this resource had just shown up. So, no resistance. I put my hand on my notes, literally blessed and released. And I said, thank you. This is another ingredient in the mix, but I don't want to do it alone. In the meantime, it was the day to show up at the book signing for my friend's children's book release. And Mom came along as well. And we were sitting outside at this coffee shop and enjoying music and celebrating my friend and his creation. And a newcomer, another guest to the event, came and sat with us. And in conversation, we connected in a way that solicited a follow-up visit beyond that day. He was interested in reading my book. I provided a copy. He read it. It impacted him overnight more than I would ever imagine that my book or the story of my life would impact one reader. It's like he was a guardian of the book in a way that exceeded even the best of my desire for it to help someone out in the world. Fast forward. Next question from him. Iva, why isn't this book recorded in your voice? It must be recorded in your voice. Your book must be out more in the world. This has to happen. And I have the guy for you. 2 breaths away from that, he said, I am your guy.
Wow.
I have all the equipment. I have, well, needless to say, I knew he was this very credentialed individual. And I guess I can say shout out to Greg,
Yes.
because he is, he does freelance work with all the networks within a 7-hour radius of Indianapolis, and is the production director. I hope I'm getting some of these titles correct. He is the cameraman, and has been doing the work since the late 70s. And anyway, so here I am at a moment in time when, in a way, I least expected it, though my desire was strong. I had let go, and I was drawn to go celebrate a friend's book, and didn't want any of that to be about me that day. And this is what comes back. So, believe it or not, long story short, we are about to embark on week 3 of producing the recording of the book. So it's still in process. It might take at least another season to have a final product. But there's a studio set up in my bedroom with the most professional equipment and the most of capable, loving human beings, who is, he told me, he said very quickly, I'm going to become your favorite audio recording engineer. And that is the truth. So thank you for your patience, even telling the story and feeling like I skipped so many details. I know it's a long story, so I apologize.
Oh, no.
But I'm telling you, like Lisa, just earth angels are dropped, literally dropped on our path. Most of the time, when we least expect it, although we always welcome and we always provide for others in this capacity as well. I know this to be true about you,
Right.
you know, as well as myself. So anyway, I mean, even if we don't even analyze what I just shared, I'm satisfied that just sharing the story alone is sharing a message.
So fantastic. And the fact that you had synchronicity with others sharing with you this, where's your audio? So important to recognize. And when this earth angel fell in your lap, it was so important for you to say, yes, thank you.
You know what, Lisa? And not to make a big deal out of this, what I'm going to share next, the temptations that sometimes come our way when something is beautifully unfolding, where there might be a slight misalignment that could turn out to be a sabotage to the whole process. And I don't need to share any details, because this has happened in multiple moments in my life when something really good and aligned was happening, and some interpretation from someone else or something comes up that might derail me or might give me the sense like, oh, maybe this is not meant to happen because it's not in this completely pristine setup that I would desire. How to ignore, in the most loving way, that kind of interference, and through honesty, through transparency, keep the alignment of what is manifesting going. I don't know how else to say it, and I don't know if this sounds too vague. This is a commentary in general on when we are experiencing a manifestation of something that, especially ones that started in some kind of prophetic vision, and that required us to get out of the way. My point is, even as we are watching it happen, and it's like, wow, this is finally manifesting, and in a way I would never have imagined, there might still be a requirement for us to continue to stay out of the way as it's unfolding. This was huge for me, and it happened in a very dramatic way, because this is a very dramatic project that has an impact not just on me, but the world, to be honest with you. Does this make sense?
It so much makes sense. And your point is so well taken, because for the listeners, what I hear you saying is, in order to really let go of the attachment to the outcome and not interfere or sabotage or try to change the outcome or try to change the chronological order of events or manipulate or control the situation, to literally, like you just said, get out of the way and allow your higher self or the universe or God or whatever you want to say, the earth angels, the angels on the other side of the veil, to embellish, go beyond what you even imagined.
You know what? In this particular story with the audio recording of my book, which is a memoir through storytelling with a call to action. Every process of this vision for recording it in my own voice, manifesting to this point of grand presentation, the book, the content of the book, this thing that became its own entity, has been playing out every anecdote in the book, including how it got to the point that it's being recorded and the potential interruptions. And when I got out of the way and decided that there's only pureness in this whole process, there's such precision no matter what, I started seeing, the more I removed myself, and based on this last segment we recorded just prior to this one, freeing the emotional charge, it's playing out in the most beautiful way.
Wow, this is a miracle. And I love how you described all the earth angels coming into play to help you facilitate this happening. And what was important was you embraced the earth angels. You, like I said a minute ago, you said, yes, let's do this. You let go of your fear or your concerns or your, like you said, you got out of the way in terms of manipulating or controlling the situation. You just allowed what was in your highest and best good to happen.
And so did you with the story you shared about the daycare and this beyond expectation scenario showing up minutes after you applied just what you're reinforcing in my process.
Right.
Getting out of the way.
And then continually, because it's not just a one-stop shop, like I'm getting out of the way and then I can start controlling again. It's saying yes all along the way to allowing. And like you suggested, letting go of this need to control that could sabotage us. So I think that your point is hugely well taken from my perspective, and the ripples of perception perspective, in that when we see an earth angel that offers up something and it feels so right, say yes to it and continue to say yes to it.
And resist the temptation to come up with a really good reason. Maybe I ought to reconsider this, or maybe I should pause and let things settle in whatever circumstance I'm referring to in my life that kind of merged into this process.
Mhm.
So it's been such a gift and such a truly humbling experience
Mhm.
in just recognizing when
Mhm.
something is manifesting and how to show up and simultaneously to continue to get out of the way.
Simple, yet not always easy.
Do you want to roll right into the next podcast on this topic?
I think
Simplicity does not imply ease always.
no. I think our overall message here is that if we have a visualization of something that we desire, the important thing is to recognize the synchronicity, recognize the earth angels, allow it to happen, say yes to it, get out of the way, and most importantly, not to try to control or manipulate the outcome.
And there's a distinction. I know the difference between, for example, when I was getting coached on how to do it myself, how to record myself, and I said I had a heavy feeling. It was innate wisdom, it was guidance, it was something within me that was guiding me and saying, you don't want to do it alone. So that was a different contribution. That was a different download, so to speak, of information that guided the precision to Greg showing up in this whole project. My father had, who's in spirit, I feel had a little hand in this. That's a different part of the story. But that was different from the other more triggered thoughts that were more from the mental plane that tried to derail this process. I just wanted to make the distinction that it doesn't mean you don't listen to yourself, but where is that information coming from?
Right. And we so justify in our own minds that we want to control and manipulate something, yet it takes a lot of strength, as you were able to do, to allow and get out of the way and to continue to say yes to the earth angels.
Same with you, Lisa, because I know as a caring, loving, sensitive human being that you are, and add to that the heart of the mother who is determined to take care of her offspring and her, so that required a genuine release on your part.
I literally just kind of put my hands up in the air and said, I'm not sure what's next. I don't know what else to do other than looking up in the air and seeing this vortex and say, something's moving. Okay, I will allow it to happen, whatever it is.
Turn it over.
It's
out of
to
your
the
hands.
The higher power.
Literally out of your hands, like even the way you're sitting right now and gesturing.
I'm gesturing
your
up.
arms up to the heavens.
Right.
So literally it was out of your hands.
And you allowed the higher power to unfold. You had lots of hints right before that it was going to happen. You recognized when the earth angel dropped into your lap, I think I'm supposed to say yes to this.
And continue saying yes to this.
Continue saying yes. And who knows, Iva, where this is going to go.
I'm excited to find out.
Let's stay tuned, viewers, listeners, because this audio book is going to be magical.
And this little creature, angel of a grandson, is also a voice of the future. So his path, obviously, is being blessed with ease and potential and reward. So let's see what happens, Lisa.